Squiz Kids acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we podcast, the Turrbal and Combermary people.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Thursday, October 26. In Squiz Kids Today, stepping up the fight against fake news, Scotland's spooky skeletons, Celine Dion keeps Kiwis awake, and the giraffe who went on a road trip. That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
Hey, look! It's Squizzy the Newshound, and he's popped up to the top of today's podcast for a special occasion. A new survey released this week has found that kids are falling for fake news all the time as they surf the internet and consume content on social media. It's a bit of a worrying trend, according to the university researchers who compiled the survey, released this week in Sydney as part of Media Literacy Week. According to the report, only 2 in 5 kids know how to tell real news from fake news or misinformation. And only 1 in 4 kids said that they had received a lesson at school in the past year to help them work out if stories they come across online are true and can be trusted. So, why is any of this important? Because these days, where fewer and fewer young people get their news and information from traditional media like the TV news or newspapers or radio, and more kids are scrolling through Instagram and TikTok and coming across videos, there's never been a more important time for all of us, kids and adults, to improve what's called our media literacy. Now that's a fancy term for being a bit more critical when we come across any information online, and doing, as our friend Squizzy the Newshound always tells us, and that's to stop, think, and check. The survey also found that kids get most of their news and information from their families, which is also why people of all ages need to get better at telling online fact from fiction. Now, as you know, media literacy is something we bang on about a lot here at Squiz Kids, and given that Newshounds, our free media literacy resource for primary school classrooms, has been taken up and is being taught in more than 1,750 schools around the country, it's fair to say that it's a topic that lots of adults are concerned about too. I've stuck a link to Newshounds in today's episode notes if you're a curious cat and want to find out more. Thanks, Squizzy.
Spin the globe.
Each day, we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today, we've landed in Scotland, where archaeologists have discovered an ancient tomb full of skeletons. Spooky. Just in time for Halloween too. So, what's an archaeologist? It's a person whose job it is to dig up the past. They generally spend a lot of time down in the dirt, digging up relics from the past that give us an idea of how humans lived thousands of years ago. It's totally a thing. These archaeologists in Scotland have uncovered an ancient tomb that's filled with skeletons estimated to be from the Neolithic era. So we're talking from about 5,000 years ago. Can you even imagine a 5,000-year-old skeleton? Well, you don't have to, because I've stuck photos of them in today's episode notes. And if skeletons are your jam, and why wouldn't they be, can I also recommend you jump into this week's Squiz Kids shortcut on skeletons? A super cool, Halloween-inspired deep dive on the collection of bones that keep us all upright and active. I've stuck a link to that also in today's episode notes.
Believe it or not.
Motorists driving on the Hume Highway from Sydney to Canberra could hardly believe their eyes on Tuesday when a giraffe poked its head out from the back of a truck travelling in front of them. Giraffes are known for walking across the savannas of Africa, or maybe even for loping across their enclosures at zoos, but not so much for hurtling down a freeway at 100 kilometres per hour. Turns out the giraffes were being transported from Australia Zoo in Queensland to Werribee Zoo in Victoria. Crikey, that's a long road trip. Hope they had snacks and stopped for plenty of toilet breaks. One passenger in a car behind them took a photo of one of the giraffes, who looks perfectly happy to be on a road trip. Certainly happier than my kids have ever been while on a long road trip. I've stuck links to the photos in today's episode notes. You're welcome.
Pop Culture Corner.
And so we pop across the ditch to New Zealand, where residents of a small town are up in arms, tired of being woken in the middle of the night by the sound of Celine Dion belting out her famous ballads. Celine is a famous Canadian singer. Just ask your parents or teachers. Probably most famous for singing that song for the Titanic movie, My Heart Will Go On. I'd sing you a little bit here, but my kids have totally banned me from singing on the podcast. Turns out a group of young Kiwis have taken to having what they call siren battles in the middle of the night. Basically, they stack their cars with a bunch of loudspeakers and meet in parking lots in the middle of the night to play songs really loudly at one another. Kids today, huh? And their music of choice seems to be Celine Dion, because it has a lot of treble and not much bass, which is apparently really good for a siren battle. Maybe, though, don't try this one at home.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. The giraffes on a road trip were being transported from which Australian state to Victoria? Yeah, well done if you got this one. They were being transported from Australia Zoo in Queensland. Question number 2. Approximately how old are the skeletons that were found in Scotland? Congrats if you said 5,000 years old. Question number 3. Name the Canadian pop singer being used in Kiwi siren battles. Yeah, well done if you said Celine Dion.
Shout-outs.
It's October 26. Today is singer Guy Sebastian's birthday. And it's also the birthday of the lead pencil. If you can believe it, the first lead pencil was used on this day 531 years ago. So, happy birthday, lead pencils. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Dennis from West Beach, Elijah from Seaford Rise, Patricia from Sydney, Toby from Kellyville, and Jaden from Rabina. And belated birthday shout-outs today go to Dane from Brighton and Mackenzie from Grantville. And classroom shout-outs today go to Class 5 KG and Ms Grace at Mount Carmel Central School in Yass. Year 6 with Ms Davies at St Joseph's Primary School in Wagga Wagga. Class 5B with Miss Barker at Bletchington Public School in Orange. Class 5-6M with Mrs Macaulay at Drummoyne Public School. Mrs Cole's class at Redeemer Lutheran School in Nuriupta. Room 14 with Ms Pond at St Paul's Catholic Primary School in Darwin. Class 5-6M and Miss Mattacolli at St John's Catholic Primary School in Frankston. Class HB3 with Mrs Khan at Woongarra Public School. Class 4 Blue with Mrs Kasara at St Ignatius College in Adelaide. And Class 4 White with Mrs Seraphim at St Felix Catholic Primary School in Bankstown. And finally, a very special shout out to Francis and all the kids in Class 4C at Gardendale Primary School in Melbourne. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout out, or if you're after a classroom shout out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au or fill out the form on our website. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow with the Kids vs. Adults weekly news quiz. Your chance to test who's been paying the most attention to the week that just was. Plus, of course, all of the weekend birthday shout-outs. And if you like what we do, be sure to tell your friends. It's the only way we grow. Or leave us a review on your podcasting app, where you've hopefully already subscribed. And don't forget to check out our socials too. In the meantime, though, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.